Yo, what's good, everyone? It's Maven here. I'm a challenger jungler, and I'm an analyst, kind of amateurly doing LCP stuff. But welcome to my world's tier list. I guess it's my qualifications. I like watched like every major region pretty much, mainly LTA, LCK, LPL. I mean LCP obviously probably the most, but I kind of like skimmed over that when I said LCP analyst, right? But yeah, this is my tier list. Probably just a few things before we actually get into the video. I just do want to kind of clarify, like my tiers are a little bit scuffed. Because I don't think it's kind of hard to do like a 1 to 16 for worlds because it's so variable and like people place in like a bracket of like 8 to 16 whatever, right, from Swiss. But yeah, it's more kind of based on vibes, and then also like obviously I'll have multiple tiers kind of that coalesce like the top 8, and there'll be more than 8 teams in that because there obviously is some leeway. Like some teams will just like draft terribly in like a Swiss game and then go down like 0-2 or something and then play a BO3 against some team and choke because they're just already tilted, like shit like that. But like yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoy the video. What, Pam? Okay, first team that is going to be probably the favorite going into Worlds. Although I actually don't think they are, but like they are, right? Like it's gonna be GenG. I mean, I just feel like GenG is just like so like they're just so consistently good at what they do, which is kind of like I feel like you can call it standard a little bit, but like um I just think like they can play so many champs in like just so many different like combinations and like whatever, right? Like you kind of have, like nocturne comps, like you can play around Chovy, you can play around Ruler. I think Keen in this meta is like just fucking thriving. I think he's just is so good. Like LCK final, or it wasn't LCK finals, it was one of the LCK series. I low-key forgot. He had such a fucking crazy Scion game. He had such a good Scion game. And I was just like you know what I mean? Like he just looks so much better on these like tank picks at creating space in team fights and just kind of getting his teammates value than like anyone else in the world, like by far probably. Like I think there's maybe an argument for like I think Driver is also like very good at it, but like Keen is obviously just like a step above Driver, right? Um but yeah, I mean like Duro as well has really impressed me. I mean like these guys have just been fucking on a roll since MSI, EWC. I mean like they've had blips of the KC series, but like and although KT beat them in 5, I think GenG going like when you verse a team like GenG going into Fearless, it does get really scary because they can play these kind of standard comps early on. That's kind of like, yeah, I don't think they're that good, but they kind of are just like hands checking and kind of having a better kind of idea of how to play out the game more with Canyon kind of guiding things out. I think later in Fearless is when it gets scary because that's kind of when Chovy decides that he can actually pick real champs. Like that's when like Smolder mid comes out, Aurelion Sol can come out, Caston can come out as a counter. Like I think when Chovy gets on those types of champs and he kind of has like a team around him that kind of lets him just scale, like I think it's basically impossible to beat GenG. But I do think though going into Worlds, if they don't adapt kind of their current like play style, I think they will just end up not winning. Um, I think if they adapt very slightly, they can make finals like pretty easily. But it's like when you get into Worlds, and I mean we've seen this with like previous Gen G rosters, like the Light roster, whatever, right? Like last year and stuff, where it's like they kind of go into Worlds looking like clear favorites. Although LPL, was stronger probably in those years. And then like the kind of second and below of LCK is probably stronger. But like, like you go into Worlds and you're kind of like, damn, like Gen G are probably just gonna win, but then like they just never do, right? And I think it's just because they've just kind of been unable to adapt out of that like very like stable like stock standard game plan where it's like, they can play a million champs, but they're not really utilizing that too much. Like it's like, okay, we're just gonna pick a Nocturne comp, we're gonna pick like a Vi, like all this sort of stuff. Where it's like I think teams can kind of sneak out wins early and Fearless against Gen G. And I don't think that's like a crazy opinion. I think I've heard other people have that opinion too. Um, but yeah, I mean, like it's obviously theirs to lose, but I think it's not really guaranteed. And honestly, I probably have more faith in some of the other teams to win just because like of pure adaptability. Um, Kind of like going into Worlds. I'm not sure how much I trust GenG to actually adapt, but I think if they do, it's just kind of like lights over. It's like game over. Um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of picks, like I think 80 mids. Chovy can play like a million of them. Like Chovy can just play every champ in the game basically, which then lets Canyon pick carries if he needs to, and then Canyon can kind of also just play every champ in the game. Keen can play every champ in the game. Like obviously, I think Keen's strength is on Ornn, Sion, Cassante, just shit like this, right? Where it's like if he's able, like he can make impact in the game just through creating space, which I think a lot of top laners struggle to do, and it's kind of why when we get to BLG with Bin, um, they've kind of gone from like being like low key like kind of mid to like being actually way better now. Like that Bin can play these sort of champs in that sort of style, like okay, like passably, you know, for what he needs to do. Um, but yeah, I mean, Keen's been insane. Duro's been really, really good, like calming and everything. Like he's calming over Canyon, and then like he's looking really, really good. Like he should have way more player of the games, but you know we got to give it to Chovy because he's 10 CS per minute and he's handsome. You know what I mean? Ruler, I think Ruler's also been kind of like hitting his stride again. I think towards the end of LCK playoffs, he definitely like started looking like really, really, really good. But obviously, like I think like he just has so much like just there's so much facilitation on that team. They can play through bot, they can play through mid, they can honestly play through top if they want to. But like the meta is kind of just like their read is probably like picking these like carry tops for Keen is like not really like the play. It's just you know what I mean. It's like why do that when you have Chovy and Ruler and there's like millions of champs that are better in like mid and bot lane or whatever. Um, and like Keen can play the weak side amazingly as well. Like it's not you can't really exploit Keen picking these picks. Like you're not gonna exploit Keen playing Ornn or like Sion, right? He's just gonna kind of chillax and like enjoy life, and then just like kind of have insane value in team fights. But yeah, I mean like going into this like GenG obviously favorites like that's not really a crazy take. I think some of the crazy takes are probably later, but yeah, that's GenG and then now BLG. Okay, BLG probably will win Worlds, but I not probably, sorry, but like probably can win Worlds. Um, I think they've like and maybe it's controversial to say, but I really feel like they hit their stride, and I don't know. I feel like they're kind of like they can fluctuate. Maybe like they can probably show up the Worlds and like just chuck a stinker again, but like I feel like Shadow has just added so much to this team. Kind of sharing space with Beitron. I think Beitron's looked a lot better now that maybe it's just there's a lot of pressure off of him now that he's kind of sharing the spot, or like he's obviously like kind of in drafts where he can pick champs that he's better at, sort of thing. But I think Shadow just has such a good pool for BLG want to do, where it's like I feel like BLG is kind of like quintessentially that old LPL style where it's like they could just be down gold and like want to just face check and like fist fight you with just like pure mechanics. And I think Shadow's like really, really leaned into that. He's had some really good games like Sejuani and shit. Just kind of basically like just letting his team just kind of do that. Letting Knight, I think Knight is obviously like insane, right? And he's really kind of started playing well again. I think Bin as well, he's definitely hit his stride. And I think that's kind of the main thing with BLG. I think Bin's finally kind of able to play Sion and Ornn and stuff like pretty well. Like obviously he's not keen, but I think he's starting to play really well. I think his Rumble's gotten really good as well. So that kind of opens up a lot in drafts because now it's kind of like teams don't feel comfortable just giving them the Rumble. Like they can just pick it themselves, B1, and then that kind of opens up a lot of lines now that are like really, really nice for Bin. But yeah, I mean, like, I do feel like they can just explode again. Like, I feel like it is kind of a volatile, like, kind of state they're in, where they're kind of hitting their stride, like, they won LPL, right? But I feel like, if they do just, like, lose 1 or 2 games against, like, pretty, like, decent, but, you know, not teams that maybe they view, like, worse than, I feel like they can just honestly implode. Like, I don't know, mentally or, thing, but, like, they've shown to do that, like, EWC and all that. Like, they've obviously, like, kind of had, ebbs and flows kind of throughout the year, and then they're kind of, like, up on the tide, but you know, we need to see the tide keeps rolling, but honestly, I do have faith in them. Because it doesn't really look like they're just kind of like winning through like vibes. I feel like they're winning through actually like game planning it properly. I think they have way better drafts now because Ben and stuff can play a lot of picks now. Shadow kind of opens up jungle pool a lot, so they can like do these really like kind of skirmish like brawl heavy type of things that they like to do. Obviously Knight is just gonna be like like Knight Chovy comparisons are like kind of there for a reason. Like they are like pretty different players to be honest in terms of actually how they play, but like they do just have champion notions. Um, Although I think it is probably more likely that Chovy will play more champions, but I think Knight can just pull out some shit as well if he really wants to. Like Vex or whatever. Although I think Vex is like pretty ass, but just kind of as a thing. But yeah, okay. Next team in probably will actually win here. Probably T1. So we can get to that. Okay, T1. Now, I'm putting them here kind of as I'm like hedging, right? Because I actually don't think they're that good going into Worlds. And I think the issue is that I think Owner has had to put up like a complete 1v9 to even get them to this point. I think Faker's champion pool is just not it currently, although like some of his champions are like good in meta, but I think the Azir's kind of fallen off. And Oriana's like really high prio, so there's no guarantee he's gonna get it, stuff like that. And he can't really play the Sylas, right? So there's issues with that. I think Keria off of his kind of champions is definitely a lot worse. So what like kind of Bard, like shit like this, like I think Keria needs champions where he's just able to create insane plays for his team and kind of just like have that mechanical ability. Where it's like I think if you put Keria on like Nautilus or Leona or Rel, like Rel's kind of in the middle there, but like these types of champions, I think like he's gonna just have way less impact. And I think a lot of the success has been Owner and Keria. I think Doran has been playing okay. I think the Doran hate is a little bit over kind of stated just because like obviously the kind of rest of the team is like that original like Zoff GK core. So I think people are kind of a lot less hesitant to point out their flaws. I think Gumayusi has been playing a little bit of he's had a little bit of a stinker the past few bit. In my opinion, when Smash was playing, I think Smash was just better than Gumayusi, but like there's obviously that kind of a political sense to like they can't just like outright replace Gumayusi because like the truckening and all that, right? But I just think as a team, like, when you kind of ban out, I think when you ban out a lot of T1 champs and just kind of like game plan around them a lot, like at least kind of this is what we saw in LCK. I think they are just like kind of easy to beat. Like they just kind of just roll over and die unless Owner is able to just literally drop a nuke in the early game, just like carrying his fucking team. But I do think though that T1 kind of like it's kind of good they got railed like this because I think they're gonna learn. Like I think T1 has like shown kind of like in the opposite of what GenG does, that they are a team that is just able to actually adapt to what's happening like to them as a team. Where it's like last year and the year before and all this, they're kind of like getting railed or whatever, and then they can kind of just make these miracle runs, and it's like it's like Faker aura in quotations or whatever, and like obviously Faker is kind of probably micromanaging like most of the team's macro, right? But I think a lot of it is just like I think T1 as a team is able to objectively look at what's happening and be like, we aren't gonna win worlds if we are kind of playing like this or drafting like this. And then they actually adapt. They'll change their game plans. They'll change drafting stuff. Like, they'll kind of like find ways to kind of get like Faker involved, kind of even though with his like small champ pool and stuff. And then they'll kind of like create like they'll draft like I don't think they draft like amazingly per se, but I think they draft like pretty well for what they want to do in the game and kind of what Faker like. I think it's mainly about kind of like just allowing Faker to get like a decent lane or whatever, and then he can kind of just like micromanage the team, and then like the game is just like chilling. I do think the big question mark going into this is Doran though, because I think like kind of the old T1 runs, a lot of it was like Zeus having that carry potential, and obviously Gumayusi as well, but we need to see Gumayusi get back in form. So I'm not sure about that one. He's kind of slumping right now, but I do think he can get out of it. Even though I don't think the meta is necessarily. I mean, like he can play a lot. Like a lot of the champs that are pretty good in ADC right now, he can actually play. But it's a question of will they actually pick them, and I think T1 are willing to. So like I think Caitlyn Jinx and stuff. Like honestly, I think T1 if they kind of adapt to picking those sort of champs for Guma, and then getting like a very good like kind of playmaking like high agency support, and then Doran is kind of just like you know like I know Doran kind of historically likes these like Gragas picks and stuff, but I'm not super high on Doran. To be honest, like I don't think Zeus is honestly that. I don't think he was that like good either, to be honest, which is maybe a crazy take. I think his laning is really, really good, but I just feel like a lot of Zeus's problems is he kind of just like does not have the kind of like just awareness, I guess, to do a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if Owner carries on in this form, and I think if like Faker and Guma at the very least wake up, I think T1 are obviously gonna make top four. And I think they will, because I just think they've shown that they can. But like I can see a world where they do underperform, and kind of like crash out a little bit. Like I don't think it's gonna be like bad enough to where they get knocked out by IG. Like I think IG is just like gone with the wind. Because they're also kind of just uninspiring. But like, I kind of do see a world where they can be in that underperformed bracket with like the Hanwha Lives and the TESs and stuff. But I mean like I don't know. I just feel like kind of just historically and then also just like as kind of a team, I think it's a lot less likely. Like, um, I do think though that T1 probably will just come out. Maybe it'll take them a little bit to kind of just like get used to things and kind of like figure out their stuff. Like, they might go like 3-1 or 3-2 in Swiss or whatever. But I don't think that's really an indication of how they're gonna do in the playoffs. So I obviously do think I kind of do think they like kind of turn up that gear a bit. Or maybe just teams kind of aren't like really stepping up to it. I'm not too sure which one it is, but yeah, I mean that's kind of the read of T1. I can see them just like faltering, but at the same time, I think just historically, I can't really say that they will. So I think I kind of need to like index them higher than I kind of think just watching them play, just because aura hype moments, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean next CFO, my favorites, my kings, CFO, my goats. I'm gonna be glazing them hard. So CFO next, low key though. Okay, CFO. Dark horses, easy dark horse, easy dark horse. Do I think they're gonna win Worlds? Now, don't ask me that question because I will probably say yes, but I say that from like a place of love. I think objectively looking at it, I think they could honestly make a semis run. Like I think if they all I think if they all dial in, like I think they can make a semis run because I think like the lack of talent, like it's not a lack of talent, it's more of just like a how will they step up on the big stage, right? I think CFO has just kind of been steamrolling LCP, right? I mean, it's not really a crazy take. I think the only real the only real competition they had at one point was like Hype Aura and Moments Gam when they were kind of like just brawling and like playing this like super skirmishy early stuff. That Gam is obviously like a really good at. Rest in peace, Gam. Praying for you guys. Um, but yeah, I mean like I don't know. I feel like CFO actually like maybe it's just because I watched them so much. Like I kind of just feel like indebted to the team. But like I think they have like some of just kind of like the best like fundamental like game planning, and I think and they kind of started the whole like 6-man roster shit, right? And like I think what people get wrong about the 6-man roster stuff is like they kind of just do it and think like, oh, I'm gonna have a tank top player, and then I'm gonna have a carry top lane player, um, and then we're just gonna swap them in and out whenever we want to do this. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. You know what I mean? Like you can't be doing it like that. And it's like why can you not be doing it like that? Because it's too obvious, and you just kind of like you're shafting yourself in draft, right? Because it's like you could have angles where it's like, okay, well, I actually don't want to pick a carry. I want to pick a carry top here. It's like, oh, I want to pick a thing top here, but I have the other guy in, and then we're just cooked, right? But it's like like driver and Breath kind of have enough of an overlap where it's chill, where they can kind of play like these blindy type of AD bruisers, and then obviously driver's kind of the tank goat, and then you can have Rest on like kind of the other stuff. Um, but yeah, like I think they actually like have like a fundamental reasoning to why they do the 6-man thing. And I think Chawi is just like a like just what I've seen. I think he's a very good head coach. I think CFO are just like Junja, I think has such a good understanding of like comps in the sense that like I think he can load into the game and just know like okay, I need to do this pathing because of this lane, and then I can do this, I can do this, like I can go to this objective on this timer. Like I think like he's very similar to Inspired, I guess. In this, I think Jinja and Inspired are kind of like two like peas in a pod, where they're both these junglers that kind of like just overperform in terms of like their kind of perceived regions like strength or whatever, purely because they just have such a good fundamental understanding of like actually like how games are going to go, and then like how they can influence that as the jungler through their pathing, and through like when they can do timers and item blah, 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 right? Um, and then Hong Q, obviously Hung Q, as we call him, Hung Q. We love Hung Q, and we do love him. He's kind of I think he's rookie of the year by far, just out of any region. He is just the rookie of the year. He's just such a demon in lane. He's a fucking just demon in lane. He's a demon in team fights. I think he has a willingness to pick shit, which I think only like really great mid laners have, like Knights and Chobis and stuff. Where it's like they have a willingness to just see an angle for like okay, like Honkyu just like sees Galio and he's like, pick me the Swain, bro. Like pick me the Swain, I'll fucking 1v9 it. And it's like he just understands like I think mid lane like his role in the game and like thematically what he has to do just so well. Where it's like when he's on these like he obviously can pick these like Auroras and stuff, and he can pick like these Azirs and whatever, and kind of like understand what he has to do in the game. But it's like he also just has this ability to just wild card pick some shit and just completely 1v9 on it, because it is just like a really great angle for it. And I'm pretty sure he kind of popularized the Swain Galio thing, kind of as a counter, and I think that's just like kind of a testament to just I think like his kind of like game IQ. I think it's really up there, especially for a rookie. And I think as well like at MSI he had some good showings. And like first stand, obviously I think CFO had an amazing showing in first stand. Even though like teams, I think the teams sent there for like LPLs weren't necessarily like their best. Um, but like I don't know, I feel like a year under the belt, he's played his LAN finals. Um, I think they really can just level up. And like obviously also, by the way, like Kaiwing Doggo, I think Doggo is really good. I think the main issue with CFO is Kaiwing. I think Kaiwing is just so exploitable. Um, I think the main thing in LCP is that teams aren't really they aren't really abusing the fact that Kaiwing is just gonna pick melee engage supports, and like he can play Bard, but I think like you would kind of take like I think you'd be happy if you kind of like if you pick something and then you counterfix Bard, because he doesn't look comfortable in that champ. Like I don't think he's bad, right? Like he's still Kaiwing, but he doesn't look like it doesn't look like his other champs. It doesn't look like his kind of melee supports where he's just like fucking like his Nautiluses and whatever. Where he's just kind of like fisting you and just actually able to like have insane impact in the game. And obviously I think CFO have kind of, like they know that, so they obviously they kind of have high like index towards engaged subs for Kaiwing. Like they've basically never gone like Nico and things like these. I mean like they have, but it's not really inspiring, right? To watch Kaiwing Nico, to be honest. It's not the play. It's not the play. But I think like if CFO can either find a way to kind of like abuse the fact that teams kind of have this perception of them on Kaiwing and stuff, or they kind of just, get Kaiwing to actually play like fucking enchanters and shit like on the occasion, or like these like range stops, right? I think CFO can do really, really well. I think they can do really, really well. Um, like I think teams won't really have an answer for rest driver because I think a lot of teams don't actually understand the fundamental reasonings behind why they do it in draft and in game planning and stuff. Maybe some of the top teams will be able to, like very, very top teams, but I think like if CFO are kind of like I think if their game plans are just like so like fundamentally good that like only the instantly top teams can kind of like get a read on them, then I think they can do extremely well. But I do think like Kaiwing is kind of my biggest issue, and then obviously like there is a degree of like Hongq might just like choke because he's nervous at Worlds or whatever because he's like a rookie, but I think they have good vibes in the team. I think they have good vibes. I think Hongq just seems like a he just seems like a like a chill dude. I don't think that'll happen, to be honest. I honestly do think they'll go pretty well. I think the floor for them is top 8, and I think the ceiling is top 4. Um, and depending who they verse in top 4, they can even make finals, right? And like, hey, I think if CFO like face like some sort of like miracle run from some like kind of lower like LPL LCK team, I think they can just shit on them. I think GenG, BLGT1, it gets a little dicey, and like that's kind of my hypothetical top 4, so we're gonna keep it on that. We're gonna keep it like that. CFO, I'm gonna say the ceiling's top 4, but like I wouldn't be surprised if they make finals by the grace of God somehow. But okay, Flyquest next, Flyquest next. Okay, Flyquest. Low key, I'm a Flyquest Glazer, and why am I a Flyquest Glazer? Because they draft like pretty decently. Um, I think they've kind of slipped a little bit in terms of drafting, kind of just throughout 2025, but I think it's mainly because like they're kind of just like hiding. I think like a lot of it is they're just hiding stuff. But I think at the same time though, I think there's just less team involvement or like less involvement from kind of like outside people like telling them what to do and shit, like in terms of drafts and stuff. But like I don't know, 2024 GenG Fly was just like FlyQuest could have just honestly played mid and then made Worlds, and I'd still have enough hope in them just like through that series, right? Like I just think like the way they're able to draft and just like they know how to play their drafts and shit is just like it's just so good. Like I think FlyQuest have the best jungler in the West by far. And I mean like he's top 5 world probably. I mean, I think current form owner's probably better than him, Canyon's better than him. I wouldn't say Shadow Beitron's better. I wouldn't say Jinjia's better. Like I don't know. He might be if you're like hard glazing him, he could be top 3 if you're hard glazing him. But like I do think the main issue with Fly is I don't know how Quad will do in kind of mid lane. I feel like he is kind of like he's pretty good, right? But I do think there's issues in that. I think Brucio's kind of like started. I think Brucio's kind of leveled up this year though. And I think Masu's been quietly playing quite well. So I'm not too worried about the ball lane. Bwipo, I think is always just gonna be good at Worlds, just because I think he has such just a willingness to pick like shit that is just good. Like I think he will just slam like a Swain top, or he'll slam like a fucking Darius. He'll slam like, like some weird like counter matchup. Like he'll slam a Set. Honestly, I think Set can be good in certain spots. Like there are just a lot of things that can come out. But I mean, like, if FlyQuest draft like how they were last year, like not meta's changed, right? But like if they are picking like high value like enchanter stuff, they're like picking these weird lanes. Like I think I can see FlyQuest kind of indexing towards like a Nivea. I think a Nivea can be a big FlyQuest pick depending if Quad plays it. I think we need to stay away from the Zillion and things like this. We need to stay away from like the really, really crazy picks unless we've practiced it. I mean, like jungle wise, I mean, Inspire is probably gonna do. I mean, like they're gonna have Iron Flexes. They're gonna have Shaco maybe. Like Rammus can maybe come out. Like a lot of, like supports, obviously like Zoe's support can come out, which is really strong right now. Like Senna stuff can come out, which I think is incredibly strong in this meta. Um, yeah, like I feel like Flyquest, like I don't think they're perfect in drafting, but I think they're quintessentially like if they're locked in form in terms of just what they're doing on stage, I think they can just outdraft any team and just you could just win games through draft. And you saw that GenG Flyquest, like they were just winning games through draft. Like they just pick Shinzao Seraphine and shit on them, or it's like okay, we're just gonna pick like like Kaiser or whatever, and just have Mossy drop a nuke on you, like um and like that's true as well, by the way. Like they can play these center picks and just match up against like best teams in the world. Like I think their best chance is playing like this weird shit, but like they can't just match up against like the really, really good teams and like completely just like shit on them. But yeah, I mean I do think they're still dark horses though, because I think Quad's a bit of a question mark, and I think Bwipo can have like a propensity to just run it down sometimes. And obviously like I think like the level of competition in NA is I like it's probably like they're probably getting wrong information in scrims and stuff, but I think if they stay objective about the game and they kind of like just kind of like craft a lot of stuff as they boot camp at Worlds, I think they can just do really, really well. But yeah, next is the underperformers, people that we will be watching out, I fear for. Okay, I'll do these kind of like in a I'll do underperformers in a batch, okay? Kind of. We'll do Hama Life underperform. I don't think it's that crazy. I think Zeka is like a really he's kind of like an aura and hype moments player. I think he kind of feels his vibe out a little bit. He's kind of like he's gonna be picking these like Akali Silas type of shit and just kind of like try to drop a nuke on you. And I don't think it's like I don't think it's that good, to be honest. I don't think Zeka's been playing that well as well. I don't think Zeus has been playing that well either. I think Zeus has been having a little bit of a stinker the past while. And like I don't know why that is. I mean, I was always kind of I think I was lower on Zeus than a lot of people, but I think like he worked in T1 because he was just like mechanically very good, and I think Faker kind of just like micromanaged a lot of the macro and stuff, and maybe owner like whoever, right? We don't have comms, or like we do for some stuff, but I think a lot of it was like I think Dorn just kind of doesn't really know what he's doing on the map a lot of the time. Like I feel like he just goes in lanes and just dies randomly to like things he just should not be dying to. Like it's like ganks and stuff like that, and it's like I think Peanut's like probably the most like aggressive jungler in the early game. Like he's always looking for shit, and I think even with that, like Doran will or Zeus always kind of just has a bit of a stinker. Um, I mean, like that's kind of why Doran on T1 provides honestly some more stability than Zeus, but kind of fake because Zeus is pretty stable and he's getting told like, nah, you can't go here, bro. You gotta go here, type shit. But like, I don't know. How my life like, I think Viper's the goat, but I think I think Viper is like the best ADC just mechanically and everything. But I feel like Viper just has this like curse on him where his teammates just get like minus 500 IQ whenever he's like playing in a world, and then the only team that could overcome that with is EDG because he had Mako. But yeah, like Delight, I think Delight's like pretty good, but obviously like there's a little bit of there's a little bit of like performance stuff going in there. I don't know. I feel like Hollow Life Space, like I can confidently say Viper's probably the best ADC in the tournament. At least I mean, I think Ruler end of LCK playoffs was kind of starting to elapse over him. But like I think Viper's still pretty fucking good. I just think his team like needs, and like to be fair, maybe Worlds like the lights are bright enough where Zeka will actually just begin to pop off. But I just feel like the meta kind of outside of Silas for him isn't like that amazing. And I think Peanut, his Poppy got nerfed. I don't think it really matters, to be honest, but that is kind of a hit on him. Pantheon's obviously out and stuff. Like I feel like when this like meta kind of shifts into like Shinzao, Wukong stuff, where it's like you could be somewhat aggressive in the early game. I think it does get a little bit hard. I think Peanut does play really well on the Maokai and stuff though, and like Sejuani he can play well on, but I think that's kind of a mid champ and like stuff like this. I think Peanut can. I don't think Peanut will be the problem if they have any woes at Worlds. I think it'll mainly be Zeus and Zeka, to be honest. I think it'll just be their solo lanes. Maybe Delight, but I feel like Viper is chill enough to where Delight probably won't get like that much of an intage. But yeah, I just feel like I don't know, nothing in this team inspires. Like I feel like even if they were firing on all cylinders, like nothing in this team inspires me really, because I just feel like their drafting also just kind of sucks. Which I think is just a thing with LCK teams. Like I don't know. Drafting's just pretty uninspired, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. Not big on the Hollow Life, and I'm not big on TES. So okay, TES, bro. Like I don't trust them. I'm gonna say it. I just like I know they're just known as chokers, but like if you watch their games, like they will have like the greatest early game plan of like all time. They'll execute it perfectly. Like they'll be up a bunch of gold, and then they'll just piss it away randomly. Like they'll just have a random skirmish and they'll just lose everything, and then like lose like 10 towers on the map somehow, lose every objective because they just like fought like 10 seconds before a dragon or something, and then it's like we just like what is the point of the early game? Like what is the point of having that early game if we just like literally like it's like they get hit with a fucking mind control beam at 15 minutes into the game or like 20 minutes into the game, and then they just lose all of their brain cells related to League of Legends, and then they're like someone first timing the game and they're like, let's just walk here and just randomly die and then just throw our entire lead. And it's like, look, sometimes it's like they just lose a fight that's like a decent fight and it's like whatever, it's mechanical misplay, but sometimes it's just like the craziest plays in human history. Like I don't know what else to say. Like I no, like there's no one like no one in like no the biggest TS fan is not saying TS is winning worlds like or like TS getting top 8. Like they've just resigned themselves to fate. And I think everyone knows that. Like I'm preaching to the choir here, but like bro, like it's crazy. It is crazy though. Like I don't know how they do it. I actually like it's a genuine mystery. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if they're psyoped or if they just get bored or if it's like they don't have a game plan for mid and late games, so transition like their transition is just bad. Like I don't know, but like if they fix that, they can be good. But I don't think they'll fix that. I think they'll just keep pissing away their leads because I think Jackie Love just wants to randomly fight or like someone's just gonna face check, someone can die, like some shit like that. And that's just kind of the name of the game for them. And it's like, okay, but it's a little crazy. Okay, AL, I think like the name of the game is basically okay. I will say I think Tarzan is probably the best jungler in the world, just individually going into worlds. Like I think he can play every. He can basically play every. He can play utility champs. He can play like what I mean. He can play the tanks. He can play like okay, I think the main thing is like you'll have players like Canyon and Owner who can kind of play like they can play the Poppy, they can play the Shinzao, they can play all these things. But it's like when you see them play assassin junglers like you Zed or Kiana or whatever, like they don't have that aura to them in the sense that like I don't think their mechanics are that clean. I don't think like they're clearing that well, stuff like this. Like I don't think they're necessarily making the best decisions on the champ. But I think Tarzan is like just such a step above in assassin junglers, and like he's obviously just matching them on the other ones that I think he just is by far like the best jungler where he just play everything. And I think the main issue for AL right now is the fact that their team is just not showing up. So it's like when you have a team of AL where it's like Flandre is just weak side, like and he's kind of like a mini Keen where he's very, very good at creating space. He's very, very good at understanding his matchups and just kind of understanding what he has to do in the game. But it's like when Shanks is also just kind of meh, like I don't think you can carry games through jungle unless like you're completely drafting for your jungle, and that's so exploitable. To where like you could probably win BO1s as AL just going like, whatever, like for Shanks or something, and then going something for Flandre, and then you pick some like Giga Carry for Tarzan. Like I think Tarzan is good enough to just 1v9 those games. But it's like it's kind of like the Milky Way situation where it's like whatever you get solved, like as a carry jungler and you cannot pivot off to something else, like you just lose, right? Like you're just gonna get invaded, you're just gonna get denied all this, like, and you just be useless, like comparatively, right? To like whatever they're picking, like some hyper scale AD, and they're playing like Poppy and just like walking in on you with Prio, like on these like set timers on 4 minutes, 3 minutes 30, whatever. Um, but it's like Tarzan, if he pivots, like Shanks is not gonna carry. Like I don't think their ball lane is I think their ball lane's not bad, but I'm not that inspired by them. I think Kyle is okay. Um, but it's like, I don't know. I just feel like unless Shanks gets back into form, I don't see this team winning against any like I don't see like I don't even think AL can beat CFO and Flyquest in a BO5, like to be completely honest. I just don't think they do. Um unless Shanks kind of gets back to form, right? But it's like kind of going in like I just don't see them kind of making a splash. I think if Shanks get back into form, they could maybe make top 4 just through generational Tarzan games. Um, but like I think that's kind of the ceiling for them. I don't think they really have ambition beyond that, to be honest. And I do think the floor for them is just like not even making playoffs, to be honest. But I think that'd be so hard for them to, because I think even if Shanks is shitting the bed, they can just pivot to playing full Tarzan carry. The issue is more if Tarzan also starts shitting the bed, but like I really doubt that. I think it's really good meta for him. I think he's just probably feeling really confident. He's feeling super, super good, just kind of like about how things are going. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the read of AL. Not that inspiring, but KT next. KT is interesting, I will say. Okay, KT. playoffs bound again, but I think they're a lot more. They're probably more consistent than AL in the sense that I think they'll probably make playoffs like with a higher percentage at the very least. But I do think there's a world where they don't. I think KT like as a team, I think obviously like kind of the main narrative has been BDD playing really well. But I think Peter and Cuz have been stepping up like big time as well, and I think Doc Dam's also kind of like been doing okay. Perfect is not doing too bad himself, to be honest. I think they're kind of all just like doing, they all doing aight, and then BDD is obviously like the kind of big stepper, like the guy who's just gonna like come in here, and pick a lot of shit. I think BDD, like he's historically been super underrated, but I think now like the narrative, because like they beat GenG in a BO5, the narrative's kind of, I feel like overhyping him a little bit too much. I feel like people are kind of thinking that KT will make a splash kind of bigger than I think they will. Like I think people kind of rate KT above like CFO Flyquest, like Hanwha maybe even, like these type of shit. Where it's like I don't really think they are. I think the issue with KT I think is just like there is a propensity of Cuz to just like shit the bed sometimes. And it's like I don't think BDD will ever int really, because he's kind of on these champs where it's like very, very hard to like just piss the game away. And I think he obviously like I think he is willing also to pick a lot of different champs. Like you can see his Malzahar game and stuff, which is that was crazy. Being up 5k gold or something and losing, like I'm praying for you. But like, um, BDD obviously is like just I think he's back. Like I think he's kind of feeling himself in the same way he was feeling himself on that like 2018 roster where he was like, firing at all cylinders. Obviously, like they lost 3-2 to IG, but like that was the real world finals. Like let's be real with ourselves, right? I think Peter honestly is like he's one of the best Nikos in the world. I'm not sure if I would put him above Keria. Um, just because I think Keria is obviously Keria. I think he just has like that kind of him factor. But I think Peter's quietly like very, very good. I think he does have a bit of a propensity on some of these kind of engagey champs to run it a little bit, but I do mess with his vibe. I fuck with what he's doing over there. I think Cuz as well has really been playing. He's been playing like pretty good. Like obviously, kind of towards the end of LCK playoffs after like the shock GenG win, they kind of were faltering a little bit. But I think that's more of like they were kind of like going back to the mean of their level. But I think like they can have like kind of a peak a little bit, and then they can maybe win a series and make semis maybe. Um, but or quarters or like whatever the fucking bracket is, like they can win the one series maybe against like whoever they verse, I think. But like it does definitely depend. Like I think I could see KT beating like an AL. I could see them beating a Hanwha, TES, like this sort of stuff. But I think like I think these teams will just outdraft them really, really hard. And then just kind of I don't think any of KT's laners are able to exploit their lane hard enough really to just kind of mitigate that. And then these teams will just probably outdraft and just completely out like micro you. But also I actually do think KT can like maybe not make playoffs, so they just have like a complete stinker of a fucking draft. Like they sometimes will just draft complete just dog like hot dog shit. Like they'll just run down the draft completely. I don't know why that is, but they just do sometimes. And I think like that can happen. And then Swift Sage does get a little bit scary for them. But I think if you're a KT fan, you're pretty like the KT roller coaster can happen, but like at the same time, like the most hopeful you've been in a while, so I don't think it's too bad. Okay, next G2 LEC Hope. Listen, I'm kind of on the fence, to be honest. Like I put them in playoff bound because I think Skewmond and Labrov have kind of finally, I think, found their rhythm and kind of like I think earlier in the year they're a little bit sus. And I don't think that was a crazy thing to say. I mean, they're losing the MKOI in finals, like all this stuff, right? Not to say MKOI is bad, but I do think they finally stepped up. I think Caps in Worlds is just always going to be just an insane player to have. I think G2 is kind of like Flyquest, where they have a lot of just propensity to draft things that are like very interesting. Like they'll pick like a Warwick top, they'll pick a Kled. Capsule sometimes maybe go like in a Nivea or so, like some of these weird champs. I think Skewmon, he can play a Lilia, like stuff like this. It can come out, but a lot of junglers obviously can. And I think it's a lot more likely he'll just play kind of a lot more like normal 80 bruiser stuff, and like he was struggling on that earlier in the year, but I think he's kind of finally like found his rhythm, and I think he's feeling a lot more confident about that. My biggest issue though, and this may come as a surprise, I'm not high on Han Sama. I just feel like I feel like Han Sama is kind of like a very quintessential like like domestic merchant, where I think he can win lanes in domestic and just play very very solid in domestic. But like I've never really been inspired by him in internationals ever. I think he's probably the third best ADC in LEC, and like you know, like obviously it's like, oh, he's on the winning team, he's on G2 and he's playing well or whatever, but it's like I'm just not convinced. Like I think Supa is probably the best ADC in Europe, and then I think it's probably Upset, and then just, you know, you can interchange them, whatever. But I'm a big believer in the Superstar. I just think his team's a little bit meh. Um, but like I do think like they definitely have the propensity to do things. I don't think they're gonna have a miracle run, but I think they can make playoffs. But I don't see them beating any team, to be honest. Like they could maybe beat like a roaster or something like that, but like if you're just thinking about like the way that I don't think they're gonna 3-0 and then get like a shitty. I think they're 3-2, 3-1 if they get like an easy run maybe. And then it's kind of like, are you beating like even the middle team? I don't think they're beating out Hanwha. Like maybe if TES completely run it down, they can beat them, but like I don't really see it. I'm not that inspired by Europe. I think Europe as a region is definitely like, it's definitely stronger than NA. It's definitely stronger than NA, but the issue is that like NA's top one team, I think just inspires just way more confidence in me than LEC's one. Like I feel like LEC's a lot more clustered, and NA's kind of like a gap between first and second, right? And that's just kind of how I view it. I don't know. Like I think definitely there's a world where they don't make playoffs. I think, you know, it's if Skumon and Labral kind of just go back to running it, or you know, Hansama international incident, right? I think that can happen, but you know, obviously, like I think if you're a G2 fan, it's definitely looking a lot better than it was kind of a few months ago, even. You know, like at MSI or whatever. Like the team's definitely like gelling now more, and I think Caps is definitely gonna like, you know, the Caps effect is real at Worlds probably. So I mean, there's that, and then you know, obviously we can talk about, you know, other EU teams probably next. Okay, MKOI. MKOI are meh, and by meh I mean like I wouldn't be like surprised if they edged. I mean, I'd be a little bit surprised, probably is how I'd put it, if they edged out like a 3-2 qualification to playoffs, right? And like they beat like a G2. I could see them maybe beating a G2. I think they have like very interesting concepts in drafts sometimes, with like a Jojo Pyun playing a Kassadin, or Merwin playing a lot of his weird kind of range top laners, or like weird counter picks. And I also think Supa is extremely good. I just feel like Elyoya like is just kind of like, I think he's good. I think Elyoya is probably like good domestically, but I don't know. And it's like I don't know how JoJo's gonna do on an international stage. I don't know how I don't know if Merwin will just get really hard punished on some of these picks. I think Supa is very very good, to be honest. I think Supa can hold his own. Alvaro maybe can, depends on his form, to be honest. But I think the big question is definitely jungle top. Um, just because, like, I don't know, like, there is obviously, like, Elyoya is not a bad jungler. Like, let's get the record straight. Like, he is a good jungler in EU, but I don't know. I'm just not like the vibes for me are just not there. Like when I watch their gameplay, I'm not that inspired by them. I think like I'm inspired by them when they have like very unique, cool draft things. When they draft very standard, I'm kind of like, you know, like nothing's really happening. Elio is kind of like running around the map. Merwin's like probably running it a little bit. Jojopian, it's very like, I think kind of he's a little bit like vibe based. He'll sometimes like win lane and sometimes lose lane, and it's just kind of like how the cookie crumbles. But you know, I mean, that's kind of how it is for EU, I think. Okay, FNATIC met here as well. I think Oscarinen is started to kind of finally dial in a little bit. Razork is I think Razork's Poby, definitely Poby's been kind of like running the EU mids a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I feel like on paper in my mind, like it's not a bad team, Fnatic, right? Like I think upset Mickey X is an extremely good bot lane for EU, and probably just internationally, right? Like Mickey X and Upset are just like pretty good players, I think. And then obviously like Poby, I think he's definitely playing well, but I'm not sure how he's gonna stack up against other mid laners of the tournament. Um, to be honest, like I just feel like I would probably take like if you're even considering just within EU, I'd take Capture Japan over Pogi, right? Like that's just how it'd be. And then it's like any other like B to D is gonna beat him. Like even like I think he's gonna get beat by Dyer. Maple maybe, Maple maybe. Quid is a little bit of a play out like a world's choker. I don't know, like Miru is okay, but I don't know. I just feel like EU is just something like I think they kind of just they draft pretty meh, and then they don't really game plan I think that well, and like their transitions are kind of meh. Um, I don't know. I'm not that inspired by you. Now, the team I am inspired by, Team Secret Whales. Ooh. Now my goats. Um, I don't think they'll make it, and I don't think they'll make it just because like I don't think Eddie. I don't know. I don't really trust Hero and Eddie. Like I think his toes kind of I think Histo's coming to his own. I think Histo's playing pretty well in LCP. Dyer's obviously Dyer. I think he's laning very very well. Taki I think is the best one of the best supports. He's probably second. I think just in terms of champion pool, he's probably better than Kailing, but he's definitely like I just think the main issue with Team Secret Whales is like they've been early game merchants for like so long, and they're just kind of like mechanically checking people. I don't think that works at Worlds against these teams. And by the way, like they've started like adapting more outside of kind of that early game merchants shit, but like they're obviously there's growing pains, like they got 3 by CFO in finals, right? And it was like decently convincingly. Like the Team Squirrels put up a bit of a fight, but like I don't know. I just feel like they're quite a young team. I think if you come around next year, and then maybe like depending on how performance goes and stuff, you might change pieces, you might keep everyone the same, all that sort of shit. Like I do think they can make a splash next year. I just think they're quite early in their kind of like careers, where it's like his to Dyer above 18. I mean Taki's a little bit older. I think maybe, but it is Taki. I think it's not Taki's first world. It might be his first worlds actually. I'm not too sure because VCS always like COVID stuff happens, so they can go to worlds for a bit. But I'm not entirely sure. But that guy's like the goat of VCS, right? Like just completely goated support. When he did like when he was, I think no, he did go to worlds and stupid. He went to Wales or whatever. But like he was goated. Like Taki's goated. But it is definitely just like I don't know how Eddie will perform. I'm not super high on Eddie, to be honest. I think he's one of the weaker points of Team Secret Whales, and I think Hero is also a lot because I'm gonna assume they play it's Hero or Pun, right? I think both of them definitely have their struggles. I think I don't really see them like I think they could maybe like edge out like a if they like if Dyer and Histo like fucking fire on all cylinders, they just come out like swinging. Like I can see them free to edging something maybe, but I think the chance is like pretty low. And that's just like how it'd be, right? Okay, final PSG. PSG look really uninspiring. I think Maple's back. I think Maple's kind of back, but I just feel like the way they play the game, like I'm just not convinced. I'm not convinced by them. I just feel like the way that it's very uninspiring how they play the game. I think they just like they just draft good stuff, right? They just kind of draft okay math stuff. I think Ozzy's looked meh. I think Karsa's definitely looks pretty meh. And he's started to kind of level up a bit, but obviously like third LCP, like the T2 Worlds beating them was like pretty convincing. So I don't know. I'm not super high on PSG, to be honest. I think they're definitely a lot weaker than our top 2 from LCP by far. I mean, I think like Betty's always gonna be decent, and then obviously like I don't know. I'm PSG's like even when they were like coming first in LCP, like it's one of those teams where it's like I feel like their ceiling is like domestically playing very well, and then internationally I'm just very unconvinced by them. Like I just don't think they can get it done internationally that well. Um, and I mean that's kind of the point of it, right? Like that's kind of it. Like even when they were like going first PCS and like first LCP and whatever, I was just kind of like I was like meh, it's like meh. I don't know. Not the vibes are inspired. 100 Thieves definitely praying for y'all tier. Quid, I think he's definitely had struggles in Worlds. I mean, I think 100 Thieves' entire formula is they're kind of like a mid jungle boosting duo where River and Quid kind of just drop nuke on everyone. FBI pick some good scaling. Eilish is kind of there on some good thing for FBI, good thing for the team comp. Doku's been playing okay. I don't think Dokla is gonna match up very well against the top teams, but I mean, like he could surprise me. But I've just thought that I think a team that like wins this hard through mid jungle a lot of games, basically just dropping a nuke on everyone. Like I don't think that's sustainable international play. Especially like when you're doing it in just like a region that's like very very weak. I mean, yeah, that's just kind of a read of it. And then VKS, dude, honestly, I mean VKS are definitely better than the 100 Thieves, obviously, but like I I think VKS have some interesting draft things. Like they have some interesting game plan stuff, but it's just a thing of like they do shit the bed sometimes, I think they have like kind of a wrong read on a lot of things. I think their game planning stuff isn't too bad. Like I think they definitely have like an idea of the game that is like okay, especially compared to some teams, but it's just like I don't know. Um I'm not that convinced by them. They took a game off of Flyquest, but like truthfully, I don't know how hard Flyquest were kind of like I think Flyquest are definitely hiding a lot of strats and stuff, right? Like and definitely like I don't I think they're kind of just like yeah, let's just like win 3-1 whatever. Like you know what I mean? I think VKS definitely put up a valiant effort. I think they had decent drafts in those games. They had like a decent concept of what they wanted to do. It's just more executing on it, and stuff like that. But I mean, like, it's good for Brazil. I think it's good. It's good for the CB the LTA South, whatever you want to call it. That a Brazilian team is second seed, versus NA teams, and they're definitely like looking a lot less like the Brazilian teams of old, where it was kind of just like a fucking brawl fest, and they look a lot more structured, game plan macro wise, and obviously like I think draft they're probably a lot more solid than a lot of Brazilian teams. And even NA teams like VKS draft better than 100 Thieves. That by far probably like BKS probably draft better than what like they draft better than 100 Thieves like most of the other teams. Like the only teams I really put above them are like Flyquest and maybe like Shopify or something depending. See they definitely draft better than C9, but C9 game plan's a lot better. Definitely, I think C9 game plan's really really good. And then finally IG. I'm just gonna put him. I'm gonna keep him in Ashwada tier. They're losing the T1, bro. They're losing the T1. And even like the thing is, even if they beat T1 like somehow, like the shy, vintage the rookie, or the vintage rookie, not the rookie, but like if they somehow beat them, like they're still gonna just bomb out of Swiss stage. Like I just have zero faith. I don't know, man. Like this team is just like this is just like the reunion. It's just like the bros. Like I'm not that convinced. I'm really not that. I don't think there's much else to say. I don't know. It's just gang. It's just me and gang like just chilling. I mean, Gala's pretty good, but his teammates are just not very good. It's the problem. So, um, even if they beat if they beat T1 somehow, like I honestly think they're bombing out of Swiss stage still. But I really don't expect them to beat T1. I think the best they'll do is like a 3-1. Maybe it's probably a 3-0. But I mean, it'll be a pretty funny series because I'll get to see the Shy Int or have a master class. So yeah, I mean this is kind of my world's tier list. I think maybe some controversial kind of takes on stuff like maybe I'm rating CFO and FlyQuest a bit too high comparatively to other teams. Um, but yeah, I mean like if you disagree, leave a comment down below. Remember, like and subscribe if you like the content. I'm probably going to be making some worlds like champs tier lists, maybe even like player tier lists, depending on like the vibe. I feel like player tier lists and stuff I'll probably do on my stream, twitch.tv/Maven16. And then maybe I'll upload like a long in-depth explainer for champion tier lists or something that I might just do on stream or something. But yeah, I mean, thanks for watching. Keep being yourself, keep loving yourself, keep doing your thing. Don't listen to the haters, all that. Bro fist. Okay, bye bye. Thanks for watching.